Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Melina Perron on the podcast. She's an IFBB pro bodybuilder coming to us all the way from Saskatchewan, all the way up in Canada. She's another one of our Canuck guests. She's in Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan. So, I mean, like I told her before, say that 10 times fast and see how good you do with that. But she's on here to share her bodybuilding journey, just to talk all things health and fitness. And, being that she's probably in a colder climate like me, I mean, we can at least share in our misery of that. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Melina, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Well, since I love torturing myself, I got to ask, what is the weather like in Saskatchewan right now?
You hit me on a good day. It is actually -7, but for the past 2 weeks, it's been about minus 45 to 50 with the wind chill.
So are we talking Celsius? Are we talking Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Celsius.
Okay, I gotta remind all my American guests
I
that I hear. Yeah,
apologize.
I just say it because I've had some guests like during the summertime in like Vancouver, and they're like, "Oh, it's like 28 degrees here," and I'm like, "How is it like that? It's like the middle of July," and they're like, "Oh no, it's Celsius." So I was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." But yeah, it's been like it was like -25 here. Fahrenheit was the coldest it got here this last week because every and even Texas, I had a guest on from Houston before you, and they were like, it's the first time they've seen snow really ever. So it's been an interesting couple of weeks. But before we get into that, because I mean that's a whole sob story in and of itself, where we'll lose half of the viewers just because they're like, I don't want to hear this, it's too depressing for me. Why don't you give us your backstory first off on what really inspired and motivated you to get in shape and how that led to you giving bodybuilding a try?
Oh, good question. I was actually 300 pounds. I was a photographer for 18 years, and I was finding myself very lethargic, tired, editing images late at night, keeping up with my two very, very young children. They were 2 and 4 at the time. And I thought, man, I got to lose some weight so I can keep up with my kids, keep my business going. So I decided I'm gonna look for a gym. Uh, I walked in and walked out. I was extremely nervous. It was just not a place for me. So I walked to a coffee shop. This guy comes up to me, big long beard, kind of scruffy hair, says to me, "Do you want to come to my place?" Oh, jeez. Ugh. I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "I teach yoga." I says, "I don't even know what that is." He says, "Come on down. Come on, check it out." I'm a very large girl at this time, 5 feet, 300 pounds, and I checked out yoga. I didn't like it. I couldn't move. I was really struggling. He says, "Why don't you come on your own and just practice with me?" So I went every day, every day, every day. Slowly, I was dropping weight. I also, in addition, was changing the way I was eating, really focusing, getting rid of like cereal was my big thing at night. As I was editing images, I was eating cereal. So I was starting to remove things out of my diet. And then after a year of practicing yoga, I became a yoga teacher. Decided, I want to build some strength. I want to get some muscle going on here because the yoga was really amazing. Moving forward, I joined a gym. I taught yoga at the gym, and I met a gentleman at 3 in the morning. That's when I would train because I just didn't feel very comfortable. I trained in the middle of the night. This guy says to me, "You have incredible legs." He says, "Would you ever think about a bodybuilding show?" I says, I don't even know what that is. Like, what are you talking about? "I'll train you for free. You have potential." I says, "Wait, I still don't know what bodybuilding is." He goes, "Have you heard of Arnold Schwarzenegger?" "Yeah. Who hasn't?" He goes, "He's a professional bodybuilder." "Oh, you could be a professional bodybuilder." And I laughed. I'm in my late 30s. I says, "You know what? I just want to build some muscle. I'm going to hang out with this guy every single day for about 6 months, 3 in the morning, 3 a.m. I would train at this 24-hour club with this guy, and we set a goal to just do a photo shoot. Incredible. The shoot went really well. I felt really quite good about myself. Um, and that was a nice thing. Being a single mom, I had a neighbor come over, take care of my kids in the middle of the night, sleep over so I could keep training. In that spring, I tore my ACL. So I just stopped training legs completely, but I decided to do the show. I won the overalls of that show in 2014, and I haven't looked back. Yeah.
That is awesome. And I mean, Yeah. Do you get this a lot that people think that you're actually taller than you actually are? Because some of your Instagram
Oh yeah.
photos, like I look at it and I'm like, she is not 5 feet tall. When you said you're 5 feet tall, I was like, what? I was like, I thought she was going to be like 5'8", 5'9", or something like that. And I see, I'm 6'3", so I'm the exact opposite. Where people would never, people when they meet me, they're like, oh, you're actually a lot taller than I thought you were. And I was like, yeah, I get that a lot. But yeah, that is just so awesome that you were able to do that. And please tell me that you weren't getting up at 3 a.m. that you just stayed up all night, because I'm one of those people where I could never get up that early.
Yeah, I stayed up all night.
Okay.
I
Okay.
ended up taking a night shift at the gym actually, just to do that, and I would train with this guy. It was pretty awesome.
Okay, that's good, because I was gonna say, yeah, if you had to, because I'm a night owl myself. So when you're talking about staying up late at night editing videos, yeah, I get that 100%. So I was like, please God, don't tell me she's getting up that early, because that's when I'm going to bed sometimes. Where that, yeah, but that is just incredible. And when you were getting started working out, a question that I ask everyone is, one of the things that people don't understand is if you were to walk into a gym with 100 people, there are 100 different ways as to how those people got into shape, whether it comes down to their diet, their nutrition, how many reps they do, what exercises they do. Every little thing adds up to that overall package that people end up seeing. And if you were to walk up to someone and say, hey, what'd you train for that body part? It looks amazing. What works best for them 99% of the time isn't going to work as good for you. What was that like for you, sort of figuring out what worked best for your body specifically? Because it's just so much trial and error in this lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. I still to this day I'm learning. I watch people in the gym myself. For me, my legs are my biggest features. So you'd be surprised that was the thing I didn't train as often because it was such a strong feature. But you know what? I really like to learn a mix of everything. So between dumbbells, cables, resistant training from, so it was definitely a bit of everything. Some machines. I started watching more videos. Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, some of the bigger guys. I enjoyed watching the guys. I was always coached by men. Um, Not that I don't like females. That's still great, but I there was no one locally. There's no female bodybuilders here, so I didn't really have anyone to work with or train with. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, and it's just it's a different way of training, I think, with the men and the women. So I think a lot of the bodybuilders I have on, when they train with the men, they tend to get those better results. But one thing that I love to talk about, because we talked about this previously, is that it's a myth and stereotype that I bust on every single podcast, because it has gotten better the last 5 years, but there are still so many women to this day who have that fear that they're going to walk into the gym and do one bicep curl, and they're going to put on 50 pounds of muscle overnight. And first off, if that does happen to you, give me your number and I will call you and spend my entire life savings just to work out with you once. I mean, you have found the golden ticket that everyone's looking for. But did you ever have that fear when you were getting started? And even if you didn't, I mean, being that you're at a gym, I bet you still hear that all the time. How do you like to respond to that?
um, I personally didn't fear because I knew it must have taken a lot of work. I had no idea how these people were achieving that, so I knew it took something special. But in the gym, as for having clients, I hear it all the time. A lot of my female clients are even nervous to work with me initially because they're just like, I don't want to. I don't want to offend you, Melina, but I don't know if I want to work with you. I don't want to look like that. I said, whoa, whoa. Okay, first off, I've been doing this a long time. It takes a lot of work. Not that they can't achieve it, but it is a different level. A lot of nutrition, uh, dedication, time, effort, weights. A lot of my clients are starting with lower weights as they're starting, right? I'm lifting 3, 4, 10 times more weight than they are. Not to brag, just to put in perspective, right? So they're still very scared. So when I talk about muscle to them, I say we're going to build muscle for everyday activities. For lifting groceries, holding your kids, pushing the lawnmower, just everyday lifestyle. And I usually use the keyword lean muscle. They like the word lean, just to make them feel that it really is true. It's lean muscle mass. It's not bulky build, right?
I was gonna say, as long as you don't say the word tone on this podcast, that is my trigger word. Where I'm just like, whenever someone says I want to get toned, I always tell them, well, what does that mean? And they're like, oh, I just want to slim down. And it's like, well, what do you want underneath that fat that you lose? Do you want muscle, or do you want to just be skin and bone? Because if you want to be skin and bone, I mean, you don't even need to work out. Just stop eating. But no, yeah, I always just find that just so fascinating. But the one thing that I think impacts, especially women, so much more positively than men. I mean, it impacts men as well, but not to the extent I think it does with women. Is that confidence boost that working out gives you? I mean, we have heard hundreds of stories on this podcast of women who, they maybe maybe have become more assertive, or just that one thing that you can take from your life and use to impact it in a positive way from the gym. How have you taken that confidence boost that working out's given you and use it to impact your life in a positive way?
I think it's giving back, right? I was guided. I was very lucky to meet a lot of people in the club to help me. And that's what I do. If someone taps me on the shoulder, if someone asks me a question, I don't hesitate. I've never hesitated. Does it take away from my training? Yeah, but I know I'm giving back. I'm helping others. So that's what really, and I try to inspire other people because I was on an unhealthy path. My doctor even said, Melina, you're going to have a heart attack in your 30s. And if you don't lose the weight. And so I want to help other people even if it's just a one question, no problem. It's just about giving back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you have that mindset too, because yeah, so many people they just take what they have for granted now that they've achieved like that body that they want, and then they just they just don't give back as much. But yeah, that's a great attitude to have. And I mean, we were talking about this a little bit before too. Is I love to talk nutrition on this podcast as well because that is the one thing that I mean, so many people just do not understand that that is 80 to 90% of the transformation you're going to make. I mean, you can work out as much as you want, but as long as you're going out and having, like hamburgers all the time or beer and hot dogs, I mean, you're not going to see those results. You're going to see a little bit of a result, but not nearly as much as you could. What were some of the bigger nutritional changes that you made when you first got started?
So me personally, I learned quickly about real food. It was just about one ingredient items, and this is something I teach my clients too. And before I take on a client, I always work with nutrition for 2 weeks solid before we even step in the gym. So it's all about, for me, it was looking for whole foods, from fruit, veg, protein sources. Protein sources don't necessarily have to be an animal source, but all the gamut. So one ingredient when it came to oats, rice, potatoes, and whatever worked for my body. And you'll learn that through time, what works, what doesn't. But for me, it was just removing away box bags and cans. I always take clients, you get rid of those box bags or cans, and sugar. Sugar is still mostly my clients' challenges and mine. Um, but some people have a salt craving. It goes hand in hand. So it's just about removing some of those cravings. Not saying you can't have those things, because I still believe in carbs. So it's about balance. Still having things like birth. If you want birthday cake, sure, every day. I don't recommend it if to hit your goals.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, yeah, everyone has their own vice when it comes to food. And I mean, just even talking about that is getting my mouth watering a little bit, just thinking about all those things. So this is my least favorite part of the podcast because yeah, it's the one that really gets me really, really hungry. But moving on from that now, one of the training techniques that I started a little bit when I was in high school. I did it a little bit, but now that I've started this podcast, I mean, it's been talked about a lot is time under tension. Do you like to do a lot of time under tension in your training, or is it something that you don't? Because a lot of people, it's like, a lot of people do or a lot of people don't. I mean, it really just depends on the person.
Yep. My training mixes up throughout time. Currently, I have a torn rotator cuff, but yes, very slow, methodical. I learned this time under tension. Absolutely. That squeeze, really feeling the rep. It's not really about the weight as much as it is about the resistance and the slow time under tension. I totally agree with you.
Yep, like one body part that really struggled for me because I'm 6'3" is my lower body. So, I did a time under tension leg workout one day, never again, because I got up the next day and I took 3 steps out of my bed and I almost fell down and I was like, "Yep, this isn't happening again." Like it's ridiculous. Like I've told people I could inject pure muscle into my thighs and calves and they wouldn't gain an ounce. I'm just one of those people where it's like no matter what, it's not going to happen. Calves, I mean, don't even get me started. That's the number one genetic thing where I mean, you're either born with them or you're born without them. But yeah, it's just always evolving. But I mean, you've been in this lifestyle for a while, and bodybuilding is always an ever changing sport and industry. I mean, I've talked to people that like figure physique and everything. I mean, there've been physique competitors now that would be figure competitors back then, and vice versa. I mean, it's always ever evolving. What were some of the bigger changes that you've noticed in this sport since you've been competing when you started to now?
I mean, just to the beginning, my very first show, there was female bodybuilding. The next year, gone. It did not exist. There was no regional shows anyone could do as a female bodybuilder. And now, when I was competing for my pro card, one show only at the Canadian Physique Alliance. So now moving for the Canadian Physique Alliance, you have an opportunity. I think there's 6 pro qualifiers this year. People have an unbelievable chance. As a Canadian, we can now go into the States and compete at the Arnold's, at the Amateur Olympia, at North Americans to get your card. These shows now give out approximately 20 pro cards. When I competed, each class got a card. That's it. Then, many years ago, I can't quote the actual year, female bodybuilding was dropped from the Olympia. And that's when my dreams kind of went, I don't know if I want to do this because that was the goal, the Olympia. But Jake Woods and Wings of Strength just blasted up and excited me. Back again, all us female bodybuilders are now representing on the big stage, and I can't wait for it to keep growing.
And it has been, and I appreciate that too, because I mean, so many people do not understand just the dedication that this sport requires, and on that dedication, I mean, I've always said that 95% of the general public couldn't even get into the amount of shape that you need to get into before you start a prep, because you got to be in shape before you start a prep. But when you go onto that prep, I mean, everything just becomes so scientific, where your food has to be perfect. You have to get all of your you have to get all of your workouts in. You have to get the proper amount of sleep. Your life just becomes one whole big science experiment. But what is that like when you make that switch sort of internally in prep mode? Because I mean, yeah, your life just changes drastically the moment that you start that prep.
Yeah, it's starting. I'm gonna prep for. I have a couple of shows in mind this year, so yeah, it's writing things down. It's very methodical. The day revolves around the training and the eating, but keeping in mind, I have a job. I have children. I have a family. So balancing between that. Oh, someone's got, a dentist appointment. Someone has soccer, so things balance between life. And everything's written down. I've never missed a day of journaling my nutrition, my training, and calendars. I got calendars everywhere, so that I can personally keep organized, but I also have clients, right? So prep is I love it so much. That's why I keep doing it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you really have to enjoy it really, because that's going through those, especially those hard days when you really don't want to work out and stuff. I mean, yeah, you really do have to love it. But what has been your family's reaction to your transition into bodybuilding? What have they embraced it fully, or is it one of those things where they're just like, "Oh, we'll let her do her thing"? But what's the overall reaction been like?
Honest.
Yeah.
Okay. My immediate family, like my partner, he's 100% on board. Always been. He's super supportive. He was also a bodybuilder, retired now. So 100% he's all in. My kids, they know it's my life now. It's a lifestyle. They're like, "Have you been to the gym today?" So they are getting it. My family does not. Not at all. So unfortunately, just you do you, Mel, as long as you're happy. But I mean, I'm blocked on social media in some sense because of my choices. But in some people just a friendly hello every once in a while, and that's nice. But it's my choice.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I mean, that's great that at least you have the immediate family support, because yeah, that makes it so much easier, I think, and I love to ask that, because yeah, you hear a wide variety of answers on that. So that's just and again, I mean, that's so great that your immediate family, has that support. And that's the most important thing really too. But one thing that I would have never guessed in a million years before I started this podcast, I was familiar with it, but I never knew how important it was, is that for so many of these competitors, posing is the hardest thing for them. It's harder than your nutrition. It's harder than your working out. I mean, I compare it now to being a perfect driver, where you can be a great driver. You can never be a perfect driver. You can be a great poser. You can never be a perfect poser. It's always ever evolving. What has your experience with posing been like?
Um, right off the bat, I found it really challenging. I didn't really understand it, but I did understand we were showing our physique, but not really understanding the routine. Like, why are we doing this? As a judge, oh my goodness, uh, that really opened my eyes because we need to see that physique, to see it shine, to really. So as time went on, I really understood how important it was, spending lots of time practicing quarter turns. So as time evolved, I started watching more shows. My first show, I never even seen a bodybuilding show, so I didn't even know what it was. So my first critique back from the judge was, um, Melina, really masculine posing. Oh, what does that mean? I only had male coaches. So uh, I had to contact a female and say, "Hey, could you help me out here a little? I need some help." So I reached out to some athletes. And always learning, constantly. Posing is extremely important. It showcases the body, front and back, quarter turns. Yeah,
Well,
I like it now.
and especially like the body is not meant to be in that flex amount of a state for that amount of time. So we've heard stories where your posing sessions are even more sore than your actual workout sessions, just because it's just not meant to be like that. But how long before you really think that you develop that overall, mind to muscle connection in your posing, where you were able to hold that pose for a long time? Because if you were to take someone from the general public on, they'd last a couple of seconds and then they'd be like, oh, okay, this is way too much. So how much time do you really think before you develop that overall ability to be able to pose for an extended period of time? Because sometimes you're on that stage for minutes at a time just holding a pose, and that's very few people are able to do that.
Yeah, the cardio really helped with that. Learning to breathe a little more shallow, keeping the core tight. You know what? Videoing yourself really helps a lot. Seeing yourself do it. When I was a snowboard instructor, I used to have other instructors take me and I go, "Oh, I need this more. I need that." So video critiquing yourself is really good. Having others look at it. Yeah, it's about practicing. What I would do is set a timer. So I would start with like, okay, let's do 10 seconds. And I do a whole round of quarter turns 3 times, 3 sets. Okay, done for today. Okay, let's try 20 seconds. So building endurance, because you're right, unnatural state. Some poses easier than others. And because you can't see your backside, wow, taping yourself is a kind of a revelation to see like, oh my goodness, like I need to lean back or set this way, or one shoulder is way higher than the other. But in your mind, you don't see that, right? So yeah, it's great to tape yourself.
And out of your poses that you do, what is your favorite pose and what is your least favorite pose?
Front lat spread. I love that pose. I'm glad it's added to female bodybuilding. As an amateur, we did not have that pose. So soon as I became a pro, oh yeah, front lat spread. Um, I think my least would be back double by. I think that's my challenging area, my back. Just getting it lean enough and my glutes. So I don't care for that pose. I can do it, but yeah, I find that one challenging.
Well, the only positive one with the back is that at least you can put your smile down, where you don't have to be smiling because you can have your face away. And most people don't understand that most of these competitors' jaw muscles are the most sore thing after a show, just because you have to have that smile on all the time. But yeah, and for lats too, that's the number one thing where so many people have struggling to learn that pose, just because flaring your lats is one of those things where it's just you're either born with it or you have to take forever to learn. Was that something that took you a while to learn, or was it something that you were just naturally able to do?
Yes, that takes a long time. I had different people describing it like hold a beach ball, open the barn doors. And I was just like, what? This is not. And you got to connect that. And once you can open it, like a light bulb goes on, and you're like, oh, then you create a way in your head how you will remember how to do it. And it's to me, like I describe it like spreading the wings. But everybody's got a way, and once you get it though, it's like riding a bike. You're like, I got this. Like, and sometimes in a show, you're maybe tired, exhausted. It's nerves, so maybe you're not at your full potential. Uh, Sometimes, but you really work your best. So
No, 100%. A question that I love to ask all the pros that I have on the podcast, because so many people don't understand that when you win that pro card, that's the highlight of a lot of people's careers, just because that is the affirmation of all that hard work that you've put in the gym has finally paid off and you're a pro now. What was that moment like for you when they announced your name and you realized, oh my God, I'm a pro now?
yeah. Once again, really excited. I had a very good friend train me for 5 years for that. I was Canadian national champion 5 times in a row. And moving from lightweight all the way to a heavyweight my last year. Yeah, I looked over at the MC and I was like, oh, he said my name. And I was just flustered. And yeah, I was really excited the whole way. The whole way home driving from Alberta. I was like, I just want my pro card. I just want my pro card. I was like, then I was thinking about cheeseburgers.
Don't even get me
Yeah,
started on
so
that. Good God. But I mean, another myth and stereotype that I love to bust is that so many people don't understand that that look that you present on stage, that is not a sustainable look. I mean, unfortunately, there's people that, are genetic freaks. There's like they're like a tenth of a percent of the population where they can maintain somewhat of a stage look year round just because that's just them genetically. When I say somewhat, yeah, they're not going to look exactly like they did on stage. They're just able to keep a low body fat percentage just because they're just genetic freaks. And, I hate them more than life itself because it's like you are just the luckiest person on the planet. But what was that like for you when you first realized that, like, hey, no matter how good I look on stage, I mean, I'm not going to be able to sustain this look, and I do have to put on weight in the off season if I want to put on muscle and get better. What was that like for you when you first got started, and has it been easier for you to accept that as your career's gone on?
correct. Yes. So I think your first show, you're excited, you love it, you're like, I'm gonna do another one. But right after the show, you're quickly gaining some weight. Maybe based on food choices, some people gain more than others, or they don't get back in the gym. I was driven to get back into the gym, but I did make some mistakes in my off season. For my first couple of shows, I was, oh, I can eat this and I can eat that because I know how to lose weight. A mistake. Now, learning as later on as I was doing nationals, I was learning, oh, I can't do that. I need to reverse my diet and really just keep it tight so I can build. As I was building, though, that was starting to really affect my mindset. I was like, wow, am I looking fat or am I actually building muscle here? Um, having people around you to remind you, Mel, like it's looking good, keeping the progress. Uh, Choosing coaches that really like go, yeah, no, this is the process. You do need to put on some weight in your off season. uh and you can't keep that lean, right? 5% is wild, right? So yeah, and just keeping that mindset. But now I really try to keep it within 20 pounds from stage, because when you got to lose 50 pounds in a very short amount of time, it's exhausting. And yeah, and it just doesn't, it plays havoc to your body and your heart.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, I can't imagine the cardio for the 50 pounds that you got to lose early
I
on.
did
But
that twice.
oh my God, yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's just even thinking about that is giving me almost a heart attack myself. But when it comes down to this lifestyle too, I mean, I've always said, if you were to walk out in public, especially during the summer when you're not all bundled up in the winter, which is why I love the winter because you're allowed to put on a couple of pounds because everyone's all bundled up anyway for the full time. But what has that been like for you? Because I compare it to being like a mini celebrity where, I mean, if people see something that's not of their normal, they're just like, oh, wow, that's interesting. What has it been like for you sort of dealing with, you're going to get stares if you walk out in public or, people are just going to be fascinated by it. What has that been like for you as your journey's gone on, sort of adjusting to that fact that, like if I walk out in public and, I'm like wearing like a sleeveless shirt or even now, just because you do look like a bodybuilder, even when you're wearing that, I mean, you are going to get people's attention.
Thank you. I appreciate that. In the summertime, definitely getting the looks when I take my kids to mini golf or places. They're like, whoa. I don't wear shorts often, but I wear tights. So sometimes when I'm in like a grocery store, people look at my legs. That I get a lot of. I've had people pre-COVID touch my legs, like, and I'm like, whoa. And then they're like, oh, I just wanted to feel it. Is it hard? And I'd be like, yeah, let me flex. And they're like, whoa. Some people just look. That's okay. Because I look different. Um, but I'm just an everyday person. Some people say nothing, and that's great too. It's okay.
Well, absolutely. That's why I love asking that question because people just don't understand that bodybuilders, yeah, they're just normal people too, just like you and me. They have a heck of a lot more dedication than you do when it comes to working out. But hey, yeah, they're just your normal people. But a thing that I also love to talk about too, and we discussed it briefly. I mean, another trigger word for me is cardio. I hate it more than life itself. And when I say cardio, I mean like actually running. Like I could walk on a treadmill for like 80 minutes, which is what I do usually. It probably started in March, trying to get that winter weight gone, where I can do that easily and not even break a sweat. But just that running is just horrible. But what is your relationship with cardio like, especially being a bodybuilder where, I mean, unfortunately, cardio is a big part of your life?
You're like me. I do not like running. I've had two ACL reconstructions of my knees, so the impact is really challenging. After even 5 minutes, it's I'm on fire. My knees are on fire. My patella, right? So yeah, not a fan of cardio, but my go-to is the stairs just because my heart rate can just peak up really quickly. So I do a lot of stairs. When COVID hit, gyms were closed. So the only investment I made for cardio, and keep in mind it's 40 below here, so I can't go outside to run. So we get a lot of snow. So bike, I bought a bike, and at first that hurt the butt, like a lot. But I got used to it, and I really did like it. And so days I am unable to go to the gym for snowed in reasons, yeah, the bike, it's good.
Every single time it becomes spring and I go on a bike ride, that second time you go on the bike ride is the worst time you'll probably ever have, especially if you do it the next day, like right after a long bike ride. Yeah, it's not, which I don't get why someone hasn't built like a cushion that's like not gonna like be sore after. I don't get why they haven't come up with that, but hey, it's yeah, that second time where I'm basically the whole entire time I'm trying to like lean up so I don't even have to sit down the whole time. But yeah, it's brutal. So I totally get what you're saying on that. And yeah, cardio, I mean, fortunately it's a thing, but hey, it's good for your heart, it's good for, all this stuff. But sleep is another thing that I think is it's the most important thing when it comes to this lifestyle. And people do not understand that. And anyone that disagrees with me, I tell them go pull an all-nighter and then go and work out and then tell me how that feels. I tried that in college twice and I lasted about halfway through both times. And I said, screw this. I'm going back to my dorm and going to sleep. But what is your relationship with sleep like right now? Because I mean, like you said, you stay up late too. You're a night owl like me, and we live on a different set of schedules. But is there anything that you take to get that proper amount of sleep? I mean, I'm a melatonin freak, but is there anything that you do to get that sleep? Because I've always told people it's hard to go to sleep sometimes when the sun's about to come up. I mean, it's just not naturally. It's not natural for us.
Yeah, I am a night owl too, but I learned this is just the only time you're gonna really recover, build muscle, reset your body, burn fat is at sleep. Whoa, build muscle right away. I'm like, oh, I better sleep. Oh, 8 hours on the timer, or as Arnold would say, six and sleep faster. But like, it's just I literally try to get, 6 to 8. And if not, I tell my clients and myself, then you better be napping. Be even a power nap. It is just to recharge. It's like you plug in your phone, your battery in your phone, same thing. Put gas in your car. Yeah, you need that energy level to do the activities you require in day to day life.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, I'm one of those people, unfortunately, where I can't nap. I'll just lay down and close my eyes, and that's my nap, basically. So I struggle with that. But yeah, sleep is just, I mean, so undervalued. I've always said one of the best feelings in the world is after you do like a long and hot and heavy workout. You go to sleep and you get that proper amount of sleep. You wake up the next morning feeling like a superhero, basically, because you're just so well rested. I mean, that's one of the best feelings in the world. But I mean, yeah, it's just all this entire lifestyle is just so fascinating to me. But was there one thing that you were shocked by the most when you started this lifestyle? One thing that you didn't expect? Because a lot of people come into this lifestyle with like myths and misconceptions, or they just have these notions before ahead of time. But was there anything that you were surprised by when you started becoming a bodybuilder?
Um, well, I thought I would just, you lift weights, you get big, and you win stuff. I I thought it was easy. It's not easy. It's consistency. I didn't realize like it's every day. Bodybuilding's daily. Like I'm already thinking about my next meal, the next thing I'm training. I have cardio today, so it kind of it's your life, but I like it. But it's not for everyone, right? Like, and that's okay. So I thought it was just um, kind of like some sports where you can, not all, but where you can just train, you do the show, and that's it. No, it's not like that. It's definitely puts every day as business. Even you got to think about, oh man, I only have two breasts of chicken left or one steak. I got to make time to get to the grocery store. You know?
Absolutely. And I mean, now we get to the most important part of the podcast where we talk about the coronavirus. Because I mean, let's face it, that's been one thing that's impacted our lives in more ways than we could ever have imagined. I mean, good God, it's been almost a year now since the things first started shutting down, and I can't believe it's been that long. But what has your experience been like with this outbreak, with this pandemic? Because I mean, gym shut down, and for bodybuilders, I mean, that's your drugs basically. I mean, and you're going cold turkey basically. But what was that experience like for you? And how have you been adapting to this? All these limits and all these restrictions that they're having now.
Yeah, that was the challenge. We were shut down for months. So I didn't know what to do. I also had clients. Um, so that means I have nowhere to train my clients and myself. So right off the bat, I was buying pieces of equipment, but we have one store, one or two stores here, and literally everything was sold out. I had some dumbbells. I was able to buy this bike the day before the gym closed because I heard we were going to close. So it was like a panic. I was trying to find people that had, at home gyms, but they were like, no, I don't know. They were worried of opening up to other people. So we just didn't do that. Clients were dropping off the map. Then I adopted Zoom training. Some embraced it, right? I was teaching with bands and I was teaching people to curl with soup cans and like, okay, do you have a bag of potatoes or rice? Let's go. So it was getting creative. um, and then the gyms opened and we're still with our mask bylaws, limited access. You have to schedule time. As a trainer, I don't know when I'm going to be in a gym. So I'm looking for gyms that are going to be open and available. It really put a damper on my business. So I um, try other avenues. I'm now a promoter of IFBB shows and discovering that are still a challenge to find, and I can only have 30 people in the audience, and I can only host so many athletes, so that's also a challenge, and there's huge protocols and insurance policies now put in place for us promoters. But I'm very happy to work with the IFBB and CPA to have shows for athletes, and we're going to run these shows. Like this is going to happen because athletes want to do this. They took last year off, so we really want. We're hoping that things are going to open.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, if you want to go to a gym without a mask, you're gonna have to move to like Texas or Florida because I've had guests on from there, and yeah, it's a free for all. In Florida, I don't even think that they knew that there was a pandemic in Florida. They were shut down for like a week, and then they opened up now. And I have friends that went down there, and they're like, yeah, there's a nightlife and everything. Like no one's wearing masks; they just go out and have fun. So, yeah, and that's in Texas too. So I mean, you're gonna have to move to one of those places where I mean, yeah, some people are just like, yeah, we didn't even know that there was a pandemic here just because nothing really ever shut down. But that's Texas and Florida. There are weird adopted brother and sister basically where I mean they're just that weird person in the family that you're just
I
like,
should think about it.
I know. So it's and plus they have nice weather except this last week. So hey, that's another plus for that. But I would get burned alive in the comments if I didn't ask you because you have awesome legs. Like you said, you're a genetic blessing when it comes to your legs, but you still have to train them. And someone like me who is just I'm looking for anything for legs to help me grow my legs because they're my problem area. So what does a leg workout look like for you? Because I'm just taking everyone's advice and just trying everything.
Yeah, I asked Ronnie about arms, so same thing. For me, it's pretty intense. I do have 2 leg days because my week is actually the backside, so the glute and ham. So for quads, yeah, I'm still getting under the rack and squatting. It's not heavy, but it's really squeezed, high sets, low repetitions. So I'm squatting, pressing. I love leg extensions. I get a good squeeze. Lunging. Everyone always knows my secret. I lunge, and when I mean lunge, I mean lots, hundreds of repetitions twice a week. Um, I like kettlebells, so the heaviest kettle they have in the gym, I'm usually grabbing. You can work your way up there, or just your own body weight. So I set goals. At first, I was just 50 lunges, then it was 100, and now I do about 200 lunges twice a week. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, that is absolutely intense, and we're both on the opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to. I mean, you're 5 feet tall and I'm 6'3", so whenever I have a guest that's like 5'10" or taller, I always ask them like, what is the tall people problems that you have to deal with in the gym? Because there are problems for tall people. I mean, it's not all rays and sunshine like everyone thinks. Well, like 95% of the time it is. I'm not gonna lie, it's great being tall, but there's also some stuff that happens in the gym. But you being on the shorter side, is there anything that you have to like adjust to being that in the gym? Because like, let's face it, the workout equipment was not meant for someone who's 6'3", and it's also not meant for someone that's 5 feet tall.
Absolutely. Well, here's the crazy thing. My coach for 5 years was 7 feet tall,
What?
right on the dot. He's 7 feet tall. I'm 5 feet. It was the most
He
hilarious
could he
thing
could
to
dribble
watch
you
in
like
the
a
gym.
basketball if he wanted to. Yeah.
Yeah. He's also a bodybuilder. He's on my Instagram. And anyways, him and I trained together. It was ridiculous. So the Smith machine, if we did Smith presses, way over my head, and he would have to click it down, bring it down to my level. all the seats he had on the floor, and I have it right at the top. Sometimes in some spectrums, I have to stand. Anytime I need to reach a lat pull down, I'm standing on the seat. I have to stand for everything. It's okay. Like I'm used to it, so it doesn't really bother me because I'm used to it. But the great thing about it is most of my clients are between 5'2" and 5'6", so it's really good because I understand. I'm short, so I kind of know. Oh, you're probably right there. So yeah, I think most things are designed for the like 5'8" person. So you learn to adapt. Some things you don't do, but most things are have adjustable seats, adjustable. So it's good. You know, I'm gonna lift no matter what size. I don't can't do anything about my height.
Well, it's 7 feet tall. Please tell me he played basketball, because that's just a sin if he didn't.
He didn't. He played
Ooh,
football. He did some track. Like
yeah,
he's an athlete.
yeah.
Bodybuild, right? He bodybuild.
I
So
was gonna
it
say
was
7 feet tall. You're guaranteed a Division 1 athletic scholarship wherever you want, basically. If you're so, yeah,
yeah. He did well at football.
yeah,
So
that's awesome.
yeah.
So yeah, yeah, that is great. And yeah, the final two questions that I love to ask before we wrap things up here. I mean, if someone were to walk up to you and say, Melina, we made the decision, you can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding, and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you would like to see changed?
um, I'm trying to think about it. Like I think everything's really quite good. For female bodybuilding, I'm just excited that we're back. I would like to see more shows for female bodybuilders. We don't have as many shows, so it's quite limited. Just add them to the pro shows, right? Just add the division. I don't know what it takes, so but I would love to see it. Positive vibes about all the divisions. Like doesn't matter if it's classic, bodybuilding. Let's just get some good knowledge about the sport, you know, how, passionate everyone is, how to get involved. There's a lot of behind the scenes you wouldn't believe. Just like, your career of podcasting, a lot of people just don't know anything about bodybuilding. So it would just be really great to get some education out there, just to really each division. They're all excellent divisions. They actually all have a wonderful place. Wellness is a new division. It's a beautiful division. Classic bodybuilding, but a lot of people don't know. They just put it under this umbrella. It's all bodybuilding. Well, a lot of people just don't really know the looks and maybe they can be involved. Hair, makeup, tanning, from suit design to like bodybuilding is just not a one track supplement stores like beautiful bars and cookies, and it can get really out there, but people just don't, I don't think, know. So if we really open the doors and just say, hey, this is a world for everyone, it's for everyone.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go ixnay on the tanning though, because with my white skin, I mean, I'm gonna need 10 layers of that tanning just to even look any semblance. Like another reason why I never competed, because I was like, God, my tanning bill is gonna be way too much for me. But yeah, and that's great. And I mean, yeah, I cannot tell you how many emails I've gotten saying like I was never really into bodybuilding, and it just having you have guests on and talk about their experiences and realize how hard they work. It's just been really inspiring. So I appreciate that as well. And I mean, if if we were to talk to you a year from today, and again, if we were to have talked to you a year ago from today, and you would have said that there would have been a global pandemic and everything, I would have called you a liar and, bet my entire life savings against you. So it goes to show that we really don't know what's going to happen a year from now. But who knows? We could be talking a year from today and you could hear gunshots in the background. There could be a huge fire in the background. Who knows the way the world's been this last year, how it's going to go this next year. But in an ideal world, where would you like to be at in your bodybuilding journey? Where would you like to be at just in your overall life? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved if we were to talk to you a year from today?
Oh goodness. Like the dream is to get on that Olympia stage. That's been my biggest dream. I just want to touch that stage. It's not a placing for me. It's just to be with the biggest, best female bodybuilders in the world. I've been watching these ladies since I started, and I want to stand right beside them. It's not about the win for me right now. It's just about meeting them, understanding who they are. Even some of like the presidents, Annalena Popov. Like I want to just meet some of these people. I've never really been to the States much, so to have that opportunity would be very, very nice.
Yeah, don't come to Minnesota because it's basically just like Canada. You won't even know. Well, no, go somewhere warm. Go to the desert somewhere. Go to the East Coast. Do something like that. But yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, I wish you nothing but the best of luck. And lastly, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Uh, I guess, I don't know, my partner, Daryl, my mom, Margie, my kids, Ethan and Mia, and the Canadian Physique Alliance. They've been very, very good to me. Yes, so I really appreciate that.
That is awesome. Is there anything else that you'd like to say?
I just hope that you guys stay tuned and really listen to some of the bodybuilders out there because it really brings the sport alive and keeps us going. It inspires me to see others. Doesn't You don't have to be in the gym. It's just keeping a healthy lifestyle, being positive, or even being a fan. I don't know if I have fans, but I'm excited if maybe some people follow me and I'd love to hear your journey too. I love that. I loved hearing your story. It was awesome.
Oh my god, yeah, I'm gonna do a whole podcast where I tell my entire story because that I couldn't sum that into like 5 minutes. I'd have to go like at least an hour just to share how I got to the point where I'm at right now because it is an interesting story. But so I'll give a little preview for everyone. It'll be out sometime in the next coming months. So I'll let everyone know when that is. But again, you guys, we cannot thank her enough for coming on and sharing her story. And everyone, I'll leave a link to her Instagram page down below. Everyone, go and give her a follow. Buyer beware though, you will get inspired to get off that couch and stop eating those Twinkies and get in shape. But again, you guys, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot. And again, Melina, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, this is Ryan Johnson signing out. Have a great day, everyone.